From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
The final results are in for Arizona's 2018 election. Leaders discuss this year's turnout and the integrity of our voting system.
And in the struggle for medical care in Arizona's rural areas, help can come from unexpected corners of the world.
And National Adoption Day brings together new families in Arizona.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Jake Trybulski.
And I'm Ashley Mackey. Thank you for joining us.
As the final 12,000 ballots in Arizona's midterm election are processed today, we're learning more about how statewide results broke records and made history. Reporter Gabriela Becerra was at the Morrison Institute's annual State of Our State conference, where experts shared their perspectives on this year's voter turnout.
The question of the day was, what do these results mean? A panel consisting of experts shared their perspectives as to where Arizona is headed politically. Experts say a major takeaway from midterm election results is that people didn't just vote all for one party. They voted according to candidate.
So many people, especially independents, chose Ms. Cinema as their top of the ticket and then reverted to Mr. Ducey and then began a series of ticket splitting from there.
Panelist Neil Giuliano says the campaigns played an important role in the results this year.
We saw the people who won made some very key decisions within the campaign timeframe that mattered to the voters that I identify as those thoughtful in the margin voters. That margin is a group of very thoughtful voters.
While the midterm election did break records, there is still a focus on the people who aren't even registered to vote. Voter turnout is higher in states with the same-day registration, according to the Morrison Institute. Giuliano says it would be unlikely that Arizona would change the voter registration process anytime soon. Being
politically realistic, voter registration reform issues don't happen very often in red states.
Archer says the state needs to tackle the smaller changes first.
There's a lot of people that do not vote in a specific election simply because they forgot to check a box.
Archer says most people register through Service Arizona when they get their driver's license, but when they move, they forget to check the box that updates their voter registration.
That's a small and more achievable thing at this point, where it's simply a procedural issue that could be corrected.
One of the biggest questions for the panel was what voter turnout results could mean for future elections. The panelists explained that there is no way to predict future elections. However, they have noticed voters turn out if they are more passionate about the issues on the ballot. In the broadcast center, Gabriela Becerra, Cronkite News.
Katie Hobbs came from behind to secure her seat as the new Arizona's Secretary of State. Election night estimates showed her falling behind her opponent, but ballots counted afterwards showed her pull ahead by more than 10,000 votes. Hobbs said she made her campaign about elections and intends to repair relationships with all 15 county recorders.
I think a big issue is the fact that we don't have an updated election procedures manual. All the county recorders are concerned about this, and on day one, that's one of the things I want to start doing is working with the county recorders to update that manual and to talk about how elections are conducted on the ground, making sure they have the most up-to-date procedures to do that, and I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
Hobbs talked about taking the politics out of the office, especially when overseeing elections and creating opportunities, so every eligible voter gets the chance to vote with confidence.
Arizona Governor Doug Ducey has appointed his former political rival Fred Duvall to the Arizona Board of Regents. Ducey said reaching across the aisle for this appointment is a win for higher education. Duvall was the 2014 Democratic nominee for governor and also a board chairman back in 2011. Duvall says he wants to make college more affordable and use education to bolster the state's workforce.
Today, advocates urged the Trump administration to bring active duty troops home from the border for Thanksgiving. They said the development in response to a caravan of Central American migrants is a waste of resources. But Department of Homeland Security officials repeated the need for troops to help harden ports of entry, saying today that as many as 10,000 migrants are heading north, many of them single men with dubious claims for asylum here. Meanwhile, members of the migrant caravan have encountered protests in Tijuana. people carrying the Mexican flag, singing the Mexican national anthem, and chanting for the caravan of migrants to go home. The president tweeted over the weekend any migrants trying to come into the country would be detained or turned away. Officials say the next change in President Trump's administration will most likely be the firing of Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. In an interview Sunday, the president said he wasn't satisfied with her approaches to immigration and the border. Nielsen has yet to comment on Trump's interview.
As Arizona continues to face a shortage of doctors in rural areas, some medical experts say hardline immigration policies could deter young physicians born outside of the United States to fill up these roles.
I traveled to Show Low, a medically underserved area which is federally recognized as having few primary care providers. The impact foreign-born doctors are making in this Arizona mountain community is already huge. Osab Ahmed has been a primary care physician in Arizona for over a decade, and he's seen firsthand the need for doctors in areas where it can be hard to get one.
The rural health is so important. These people cannot commute 3.5 hours in Phoenix just for a minor problem.
It's doctors like Ahmed, born in Pakistan and living in the U.S. since 1995, who play a critical role in underserved areas like Show Low, where he works at Summit Internal Medicine. According to a recent study by the University of Portland, just over 23% of doctors in Arizona are foreign-born, yet the state continues to face a doctor shortage. Arizona ranks 42nd in the country for active number of primary care physicians per 100,000 residents.
Roughly 30,000 first-year positions, residency positions across the United States. About 7,000 of those go to international medical graduates, with about 3,000 being U.S. citizens and about 4,000 being foreign-born.
Many rural clinics like Summit Internal Medicine rely on medical students to care for patients. That's why when there's a doctor shortage, these places get hit the hardest. Ahmed can see anywhere from 10 to 20 patients a day, and a majority of them are older residents who go in for checkups. Earl Richmond has gone through 3 doctors since moving to the area.
And when I find a good doctor like the one I have here, he's great. And what he does is he'll figure out or try and find the problem that you have.
But finding a trusted doctor isn't just an issue for the older generation. It also impacts those who need specialty doctors, like Sean Recobb, who is transgender.
The smaller towns, typically you have more closed-minded communities sometimes. But to begin with that, obviously less doctors means there's less people who would handle such.
Despite the need, sometimes the immigration process is not easy for international doctors hoping to practice medicine in the U.S. Often, it can be discouraging.
There are so many steps which need to fall into the right place before you get here.
Once it does happen, the work these doctors do in rural areas is one they and their patients don't take for granted.
He's helped me a lot, more than a lot of the ones before.
I'm proud from where I am, but I think I'm prouder where I am today.
Since 2015, 3 hospitals in rural areas have closed in Arizona. The Robert Graham Center has predicted that Arizona would need a 50% increase in the state's current number of primary care physicians in order to keep up with demand. In the broadcast center, Abdel Jimenez, Cronkite News.
A new study says that there are hundreds of missing or murdered Indigenous women in metropolitan areas that have gone unnoticed. Washington reporter Lillian Donahue has more.
The Urban Indian Health Institute surveyed 71 cities across the United States to highlight often underreported cases of violence against Native American women. Arizona was one of the top states with the most number of cases.
Nobody is looking for our women, and they are dying.
Abigail Echo Hawk spearheaded the study that captured the attention of senators of both parties. Researchers said they found more than 500 women in urban areas who were missing or murdered, but the crime is not reflected in any government database. The names of those lost are written on a skirt she carries.
The Jane Doe you see on this skirt, today is the anniversary of her death. She was from Tucson, Arizona. We don't even know her name.
By the study's estimate, Tucson has the second highest number of murdered Native women in the country. Arizona ranks top 10. Echo Hawk says misclassification and redacted police records couldn't paint the full picture.
When we did our public records request, some of the police departments didn't get us the information we would have liked. We need to know this information in order for us to really understand the depth of the issue.
We have to assume here that the 506 identified cases probably undercount the incidence of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in urban America.
Lawmakers are taking notice. North Dakota Senator Heidi Heitkamp is sponsoring Savannah's Act, which would require law enforcement to update entries for missing and murdered Native Americans across the country.
If we think we can solve a problem, you will never solve a problem you won't admit you have, that you don't have data on.
Barney Enos with the Gila River Indian community says he finds the numbers disturbing, but Savannah's Act is just a start.
As tribes, as agencies, we can do a lot more beyond the legislation. All of our efforts combined, we can work to combat those numbers and see a decrease in that.
In Washington, Lillian Donahue, Cronkite News.
Savannah's Act passed the Senate Indian Affairs Committee on Wednesday and will now go to the full Senate.
Well, the holiday season is upon us.
Some people think this time of year is the best time for families. A national holiday is helping some people make their family more complete.
And an Arizona tournament helps build interest in science and engineering brick by brick.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
180 children now have new families after a celebration of adoption this weekend. Cronkite News reporter Jennifer Alvarez shows us how these families came together through the help of volunteers.
National Adoption Day is celebrated the Saturday before Thanksgiving in hopes that a bigger at the dinner table. I found it inspiring to see children make it out of foster care and into.
Down here, lots of fun and activities.
We see a lot of smiles.
And up there, another walk of relief when an adoption is finalized.
It's definitely life-changing.
There's happy kids and definitely happy new parents. But it wasn't always all smiles. Catherine and Caitlin Flushner had been trying to adopt for over 2 years.
It's been a long process, that's for sure. It's not just like, they come into your home and they stay. Sometimes they go, and sometimes it works out, and we get to keep them forever.
For only one day each year, the halls of the Durango Juvenile Court are filled with happiness. Maricopa County celebrated National Adoption Day on Saturday, where 180 children were adopted. But other than the families, everyone here was a volunteer.
Over 200 volunteers.
But what about the judges? The lawyers?
All volunteers.
This is the Prescott Juggling Club's 3rd year volunteering.
It's a 6-hour job total, so we're at 5.5 hours so far, so we're getting a little tired.
But even though they're a little tired...
Oh, it's worth it. It's such an inspirational event. I just want to cry every year when I see how many happy kids there are that are being adopted.
Some of those happy kids are now part of Catherine and Caitlin Fleschner's family. They'll get to keep these two forever.
There's a good smile, Missy.
And the one thing they're looking forward to the most...
Starting our family,
Maybe taking a trip to Disneyland.
Yeah.
And their advice to those looking to adopt.
Go in with it with your whole heart and just know that the kids really deserve that.
It is worth it.
It's great having these kids in your home and learning from them every single day.
Perhaps today, this mom will be learning some new dance moves from her daughter. This is the 19th year for Maricopa County National Adoption Day event. In the Broadcast Center, Jennifer Alvarez, Cronkite News.
Welding, trucking, bridge construction, ADOT is working with contractors to increase the number of women and minorities working in a wide range of construction jobs. Reporter Charisma Sandoval explains how the program helped one woman start her own trucking business.
The Arizona Department of Transportation is drilling down into how to encourage more women to take up construction careers, everything from building roads to building houses. Patricia McKinley went through the program and ended up starting her own trucking business.
It showed me that there is a great need for promotion of encouraging other women to get moving forward. Because we can do it.
Program manager Corey Foster says bringing more women and minorities into the ADOT Construction Academy is filling an industry need.
So a lot of the contractors are concerned that, hey, we are hiring, projects are increasing, opportunities are increasing in the Valley and in Arizona, and but the workforce does not have the skills that they need to go forth. And so the Academy kind of bridges the gap for that.
According to the U.S. Department of Labor, more than 90% of workers in the construction industry are men. Foster says women battle discrimination in a male-dominated industry.
And women expressing their frustration, saying, why I have to interview more, or like, why am I being vetted more like than everybody else?
After graduating from the program, Iris Boss decided to teach safety and flagging for the ADOT Academy at a Gila Community College facility in Miami, Arizona, where students get hands-on experience.
As an instructor, I just try to remind my students that I've been in their seats and I know how it is, and that there is a way to further their education if they just give it a chance and take the time to do it.
When students complete their specific program, they get a certificate and free equipment for the job. Now, when participants graduate from the ADOT construction program, they are gifted with all the tools to succeed in the construction industry, from the boots to the hard hat, all the way to the safety goggles. More than 200 women have graduated since the program originally launched in 2014.
We live in these communities that we're building up and reconstructing, so I want to see women in the communities that they're building in, working in.
In Miami, Charisma Sandoval, Cronkite News.
Corey Foster says graduates can be placed directly into jobs in just a few days. ADOT also says in the last year, 301 Native Americans who went through the program were placed directly into the industry. Coming up on Cronkite News.
California's wildfires still burn as emergency officials try to contain them, but a new threat may endanger the volunteer efforts so far.
And as Turkey Day quickly approaches for us, I'm tracking a forecast that you're going to be thankful for as we head into that holiday weekend. We'll dive into those details coming up here in just minutes.
The outgoing Navajo Nation president extended the tribe's crop insurance during an ongoing severe drought. President Russell Begay agreed to the protections to lessen the impact of the drought on pastures, rangelands, and forage. Recent maps show most of the Navajo Nation is under an extreme drought. Officials say the insurance is part of a federal program. And the Forest Service is getting criticism for its decision to cut down over 1,000 trees. The cutting was mainly in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. Those trees were all more than 150 years old. Forest Service officials say they made the decision to prevent the spread of an invasive and parasitic plant. Supporters of the Forest Restoration Initiative say cutting down the trees is breaking the trust of stakeholders.
The wildfires in California continue to grow, and a new threat looms on the horizon. California fire officials say dropping temperatures and rainfall will turn burn scars into mudslides, and experts worry that this pattern will continue.
There is a trend for fires getting larger, and certainly as the fire season gets longer, then that gives more time for fires to grow. And so chances are we would be seeing bigger fires over time.
Volunteers say people have been generous with donations to evacuees, but makeshift camps for donations will soon be unavailable. And officials say evacuees need to find places to stay before temperatures drop and rain falls.
With the potential for mudslides in parts of California, all eyes are on the forecast this week.
Jordan, what areas will be hit with the most rain?
So I've got my eyes on a couple disturbances coming into California, which will definitely bring some much needed rainfall for those areas that have been impacted by wildfire. And as we look at that on Futurecast here, we'll put that into motion for you actually as I get the weather computer fired up here for you guys. We're going to see both systems really bring some much needed rainfall for areas around Northern California. And we can see that as we put that into motion here as that comes in on Wednesday night. That'll help. A very strong cold front will bring some of that rainfall for areas around the campfire and again on Friday. And this one could be pretty heavy as this will really impact areas around there. So that's why that mudslide threat is definitely something that we will be watching as we head into the weekend. But tracking that forecast for Thanksgiving across the nation, if you're going to be heading out to the Northeast, below freezing temperatures is what we can see up in the Northeast around New York, and then 50s and 60s as we head into areas around Kansas City and down in the Southeast. So if you're heading up to the Northeast, definitely bundle up because it's going to be dangerously cold up there. But here in the Valley, we've got some nice temperatures as we head into the holiday week here with holiday lighting ceremony forecast looking pretty nice with temperatures in the 60s. Might need the jacket as that sun sets, but definitely going to be pretty comfortable and dry as well as these disturbances will not bring any rain for us here in the Valley. But of course, for that Thanksgiving forecast, we'll be tracking 70 degrees for the Valley as we head into the weekend, and we'll keep clouds with us on Thursday as that disturbance does pass us to the north, but those temperatures are going to be pretty nice throughout the rest of the week. And for tomorrow, we'll start things off in the 50s, climbing up to the 70s around noon, and then topping off in the upper 70s tomorrow afternoon here in the Valley. And then extending that out into the 7-day forecast, we'll stay pretty warm here in the Wednesday with that sunshine staying with us on Wednesday, and those clouds increase again on Thursday and Friday as well as that disturbances pass up to the north, and those temperatures, they're going to drop down to the 60s as that cold front moves through as well, and we'll see those lows even fall into the 40s and that abundant sunshine returning for us into the weekend. In the Cronkite Weather Center, I'm Jordan Evans.
Coming up next on Cronkite News.
The first LEGO League qualifier competition took place this weekend. The goal? To get more kids interested in STEM.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
Join us each week on Catalyst, the show that explores new advancements, technologies, and innovations at Arizona State University that are shaping the future for tomorrow and beyond. Catalyst, Wednesdays at 9, right here on Arizona PBS.
In this competition, FIRST isn't just a place, it's the name of the game. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. Reporter Tanai Williamson was at the first LEGO League qualifier tournament this weekend and met with a group of kids who are using STEM to make robots and have a good time.
I'm at the first LEGO League qualifier tournament, and I'm with
Area 52! Area 52 was one of 15 teams who met up over the weekend for
for a chance to compete in the first LEGO League competition hosted by Intel.
And basically, we all have to do 3 categories: robot, core values, and project.
This team has worked together for about 3 years as a result of a nonprofit called Education Empowers.
I'm really passionate about technology. I'm also passionate about volunteering and giving back to the community. So I find these two go hand in hand.
Anna Prakash co-founded Education Empowers a few years ago with her daughter because they wanted to reach more kids and introduce them to STEM.
Now we work with a number of nonprofits in the Valley, all the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCAs.
Today, they reach children all across the state, making it possible for them to participate in competitions. The teams develop models using Legos. They use coding to make the models move across the boards to complete different challenges, which earns them points.
There's stuff in there like sensors and just regular bricks and like stuff that you have to connect together.
At the end of the day, like most kids, Area 52 just wants to have fun.
Here it's fun. It's fun like doing a competition with your friends.
Area 52 had a good time at the competition and qualified for the state tournament coming up in January. In Chandler, Tanaya Williamson, Cronkite News.
Each team is paired with a mentor from Intel and work over the course of 3 months to prepare for the big competition.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
The next Arizona Horizon, longtime Phoenix weatherman Dave Muncy talks about his new book and his life in broadcasting. Dave Muncy on the next Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. New work requirements in Arkansas leave 12,000 Medicaid patients without coverage. That's Monday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.